Welcome to Focus on Health, a series of educational programs highlighting current health issues sponsored by the Department of Nursing at Salisbury University. I'm Mary DiBartolo, Professor of Nursing at Salisbury University and host of the program. This program will focus on medication disposal, and with me is Matthew Balish. You are a PharmD
Yes.
and a registered pharmacist as well. And you are here from Pemberton Pharmacy to talk about this very important topic that everyone seems to be confused on,
Definitely.
how to get rid of medications that you're not using anymore. So in general, all medications fall under this umbrella of how do we dispose of them properly, but then of course we have certain medications that are of particular concern.
We do, most definitely. So every medication in your medicine cabinet is eligible once it's expired or you don't need it for proper disposal. The ones we care a lot about and that have been in the news lately are particularly painkillers, opioid painkillers, unneeded ADHD medications, things that can be diverted and abused. We want to get them out of your medicine cabinet or out of wherever you keep them in the home and get them into an appropriate disposal stream. And an appropriate disposal stream is, we don't want it in the landfill leaching into our groundwater. We don't want you to flush it down the toilet so that it gets into rivers and streams. And we certainly don't want it disposed of in a way that it can be diverted to abuse. And so
that would mean the trash can.
That would be the trash can, yes. And so I'm going to tell you we'll talk about a couple of ways that you can dispose of things properly and where.
So what is the first option, I guess, is when you can officially take it to a place.
Yes.
So I'll let you elaborate on that.
So medication disposal traditionally has been, in the last 10 years, DEA take-back days. So the Drug Enforcement Administration, in coordination with your local sheriff or police department, would set up a take-back day. And you would literally have your law enforcement in a parking lot with big cardboard barrels accepting medication for disposal. And they were particularly interested in getting back what we would call Schedule II or controlled medications. So these are your opiate painkillers, your benzodiazepines, your anti-anxiety drugs, things that can have addiction potential. The DEA would collect these in the thousands of pounds, send them away for incineration once a year. And there is a DEA take-back day every year, and I believe our local law enforcement has not announced a date for this year's, but there will be one. So out of that movement evolved your police departments getting grants for disposal boxes. And a disposal box looks like an overbuilt mailbox. They're usually blue or green. And you could walk into your police department and deposit your drugs just like mailing a letter. And it had an inner cardboard liner. You seal it up and you send it away for incineration. Again, it didn't get diverted. It didn't get put into the water supply, and it didn't go to the landfill, and it was taken out of circulation. More recently, pharmacies, through President Obama's 2013 Drug Disposal Act, were granted permission to collect and dispose of medications. And here locally, 2 pharmacies have disposal boxes through grants from the Wycomico County Health Department. Apple Drug has a box, as well as Pemberton Pharmacy.
All their locations? I know Apple has a couple locations.
The location the main store in Fruitland and our store on Pemberton Drive both have disposal boxes, as well as I believe the Salisbury Police Department. Depending on what county you're in, the state troopers barrack will have them, and you can go in whenever they're open and dispose of your medication. And when you do that, I always recommend that you either tear off the part of the label that has your name, or get a Sharpie and color out the label.
And the prescription number, I imagine.
Sure, and the prescription number, and so that you obliterate that information, so that when it goes in, not that anyone's going to see it, but it's always a good practice. Again, it's as easy as mailing a letter. There are a couple of things you should remember, though. For liquids, 4 ounces, and that is what a small bottle of cough syrup. Anything over 4 ounces, you typically can't get in there. So if you have a big bottle of saline with medication diluted, that would be very difficult to dispose of. Big boxes of nebulizer medication you would have to take out of the box and put the individual packets in. No sharps. You cannot put used medication syringes, auto-injectors into these containers. They are not designed for it.
So they're just for pills and liquids?
Just for pills and liquids. And please, 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 no illegal drugs. We don't want to dispose of things that you would get arrested for. That is not appropriate for these boxes.
So just prescriptions?
Just prescriptions and over-the-counters. And when I mean over-the-counter medication, I mean your cough syrups, your allergy pills, your expired Tylenol, anything that you would want to put in the trash that's a medication can go in these boxes.
A question about expiration dates. Aren't they coming under fire in general? What do they really mean? I mean, you definitely shouldn't take that medicine after the expiration date, because I think a lot of people feel like it's some sort of scam to force people to get updated medications, and then they feel like they have to hold on to them.
So expiration dates are decidedly not, I mean, they are something that have scientific data behind them.
Okay.
So when a manufacturer makes a drug, like Tylenol, for example, the Tylenol company has to do studies to say, in this one tablet, we have 650 milligrams. And we have to track that tablet sitting on the shelf in a controlled environment, and at what point does that Tylenol degrade to where it doesn't have that potency anymore. And that is what is really an expiration date. We can guarantee to this point that the medication will work as advertised. After that, less effective, degraded, we don't recommend that you take it. So no, they are definitely not made up.
Well, I know antibiotics are another group of drugs people hold on to thinking they can use it down the road, and they, of course, lose effectiveness.
And that is a group of, you should not be self-treating. I would, if you don't complete a course of antibiotics, by all means, that should be disposed of properly. We definitely don't want that in the trash. We don't want that in the water supply. The drug disposal box is where that should go. I tell my customers that you should clean your medicine cabinet out twice a year. Put it on your Google Calendar if you're so inclined technologically. And very quickly, a sideline about the medicine cabinet itself. That is not the best place to store your drugs.
I was just going to ask that. It isn't, is it, with all the humidity in the bathroom?
Yes, and that humidity will get into those vials, and water is one of the most powerful substances out there because it will break chemical bonds and degrade your medicine. I tell everyone, pick a top shelf in your kitchen cabinet or top shelf in your pantry, bedroom closet, top shelf, all appropriate places that are cool and less humid to store your medication. So that's important. But you need to be cognizant of how much you're collecting, what you can get rid of. We have a lot of people after the death of a family member bring in everything, and that is totally appropriate. You can just put that right in the collection bin and have no worries that it's not going to be misused, diverted, or go to the wrong place.
Well, that sounds like the way to go, is to take it to these drop-off places at either Apple or Pemberton, versus waiting around to find out when the annual DEA take-back day is.
Very much so.
It's nice that they have that.
It is.
As an extra opportunity.
Most definitely. But let's say that you can't get to a DEA take-back day. You can't come over to the pharmacy or get to the police department to dispose of it properly. There are a couple of things you can do at home. So FDA, Food and Drug Administration, and EPA, thank you, have recommendations for home disposal to get things into a landfill in the safest method possible. It's not the best method, but if all else fails, you can do this. And this, what you need is a plastic bag, coffee grounds, particularly used coffee grounds, and some duct tape. And what you do...
Another use for duct tape,
Another use for duct tape. What you do is you put your used couple days worth of used coffee grounds in your baggie. The medication that you want to dispose of, you dump in there. Don't crush it. Seal the bag, roll it up, wrap it with duct tape a couple of times, and that can go in your trash. Another great substance to use is unused kitty litter. And a little bit of water, and you make a paste, and it makes it virtually impossible to get at. That's another way to do it.
So it prevents people from getting to it and then leaching of the
Correct.
chemicals?
Very much so. The kitty litter will absorb the drugs, probably better than the coffee grounds. But everybody, well, most everyone has coffee grounds. And you're right, this is to prevent people from, if they go through the trash, they're not going to find a pill bottle. And most people are not going to want to try to get pills out of kitty litter or coffee grounds. This makes it very unpalatable to want to reuse those drugs.
And you're talking more about opiates, drugs of abuse.
Most definitely drugs
Even
of abuse.
ADHD drugs.
Right,
you know,
ADHD
they go on the
drugs.
market.
Anti-anxiety drugs, most definitely that's a good way to do it. There are a couple of things, though, that should be flushed, and there are two exceptions. Fentanyl patches, the FDA recommends you fold in half and flush down the toilet. Fentanyl liquid, morphine liquids, anything like that, if you can't dispose of them any other way, their recommendation is still put down the toilet, because those drugs are so dangerous that that is the best way to keep people from dying from them. There are cases every year where people get a hold of fentanyl patches, get the residual drug out of it, and die from an overdose. And the only way to prevent that, either through the disposal boxes, the DEA take-back day, or flushing it down the toilet. Those are the three recommended ways to get rid of those drugs. And yes, it's a trade-off for the environment versus human health, but that is unfortunately what you have to do with those powerful painkillers. And if you have any questions, call your pharmacist. They will be glad to help direct you into proper disposal.
Well, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
being on the program. It was very informative.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we'll post some websites at the end of the program where people can get more information about the topic.
Yes.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Focus on Health here on PAC 14.